You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour, episode 13 of our 5th season. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. You know, I keep saying this as we go through. We're flying through that schedule, you know.
Oh my gosh.
So it's, you know, by the time we come back to you next week, it'll be October already. So
that is crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I mean, literally one day of September left.
Right. We've closed in on the halfway point of the first marking period at school, and I told the kids you're an eighth of the way through the year.
Did they appreciate that?
Not really.
Not really. No.
Same way as when we reached the Labor Day weekend, and I was like, 1 month down.
First month over, gone, done. That's
They just
great.
look at me like, oh, he's going to be like that.
He's one of those.
Yeah.
So
And that's me. Yes, it is.
do not request Raffoff for classes ever again.
Lesson learned.
Yeah. All right. So this is a situation we haven't been put in for a while, actually together. I'm
Thankfully.
not sure. Yeah, well, actually, I'm totally thankful for that. And because actually, I think I did the recap versus Harrisburg the last time Wilson lost by myself.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about a loss probably since middle of October last year.
Yeah. It was the end of last season got a little sketchy in terms of scheduling for me.
So many excuses.
Yes. But also, yeah, that's just not a lot of fun. So, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I let you do that one.
Wait, I mean, you having a kid or losing a football
No,
game?
I meant
you...
talking about the end of the season.
Okay. All right. I was trying to clarify. So, yeah, unfortunately, we have to talk about a loss this evening. The first one for the Bulldogs this season. First one in like 11 months, basically.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's always exciting to win games, win 5 in a row, come out of the gates really strong. But they just ran into a bit of a buzzsaw Friday night against Manheim Township, which wasn't unexpected. Like, it was. We knew they were going to be really good.
Township was as advertised.
Yeah, entering the season, a lot of the preseason predictions pegged Manheim Township to be the team to beat, try and attempt to win a third straight league title. Of course, last year was a 3-way tie, but it still counts. And Township won going away in 2017, ending our 68-game league streak, then beat us in the playoffs. We got back at them last year, but had the down game against Warwick, which led to the 3-way tie with them. And now this year, Township looks to be the team to beat. Of course, we'll find out pretty quickly as this week they play Warwick.
Right.
And, those two teams are both sitting at 6-0, two of the top teams in the state in 6A and 5A respectively.
Yeah, I believe they're both the 1 seeds in currently.
By power rating?
By power rating in 6A and 5A. So, huge game there. I don't know who was home for that one, but... huge game.
Yeah, I unfortunately I don't know that either, but I will. You know what? I'm going to pull up the power ratings as you mentioned because there was a huge shakeup across the district this weekend as a result of the games Friday and Saturday. And now, if everyone has updated these, which they don't always do,
but it's also hard to tell because of teams filling in with non-PIAA.
Right.
Teams, their schedule's filling in with some of those teams, so like not all of them have 6 games that count towards the power ratings. So
right. Let me pull this up here for everyone to see, and so there you have it. Wilson is at 2, even despite the loss of Township. When you lose to the team at 1, you're not going to drop too far, and that also was buoyed because Harrisburg and Cedar Crest lost as well. Cedar Crest to Warwick, Harrisburg to Central Dauphin, who comes in at number 5 in the power ratings, and they are hitting their stride right now. Now, I know it was a big controversy at Severance Field on Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
For those of you not aware, it was a low-scoring, back-and-forth game, tons of turnovers. I believe Eric Thomas, I talked with him, the broadcaster of all the Central Dauphin games. I spoke with him after the game to find out what went down, what went on, and he told me that Central Dauphin had forced 6 Harrisburg turnovers. I believe it was 5 or 6. A bunch of interceptions, fumbles actually near the end, which helped the Rams keep it close. 15-14 was the final, but Harrisburg was inside Central Dauphin territory with, I believe it was 17
seconds when they snapped the ball.
They ran a play that ended up being down at like the 1.5 yard line or so, but there was a clock malfunction, and the referees just signaled end of the game. Now, by any...
It looked as though there should be somewhere between
3 to 5 seconds.
At least.
Yeah, it could be even 5 to 7 seconds.
Right. There should have been time.
Now, Harrisburg didn't have any timeouts,
Right.
but there was plenty of time because of the first down pause.
Right.
By the time the change was set up again, you would have had 3 to 5 seconds, which means you could have at least ran a play, if not spiked it, and set up to run a play.
Yes.
But they said no. Game was over. And Central Dauphin comes out victorious.
Yeah, and from the appearance, it did not look as though it was a timing, like a clock operator error. It looked as though the actual clock stopped working. From the view I saw, it went to
it went from 17.7 to 0 immediately.
Right, and then it flashed like an 80, and then
it's
went
almost
off,
like something reset.
Yeah, it was not.
And now this was at Harrisburg, not at Central Dauphin.
Afternoon.
So there's no, nothing cahoots about trying to get the home team win. The home team, they wanted them to have a few extra seconds, but that's just was not what was decided.
Needless to say, chaotic ending.
Yes.
And a tough way for that to kind of play out, for both sides. Like neither team, I'm sure Central Dauphin is thrilled that they won the game, but they don't want to necessarily win on that.
Yeah.
Or have that hanging over the win, I should say. They don't want that hanging over the win. And Harrisburg, feels like they should have gotten that last shot, and probably should have gotten that last shot.
Probably should have, but you can't, just because they're at the 1.5 doesn't mean they were going to score.
No. No, they'd only scored, it would seem twice all day. So, yeah, just a crazy ending.
Like a lot of teams now, including Wilson, Harrisburg's riddled with injuries. Eric told me they were down, I believe, their third-string tackle. They had backup quarterbacks rotating in. Plant was not in at the end of the game. Dante Kent was out. They were missing people, but still one of the best teams in the state in the classification for sure. And we have not heard the last from them. I'm going to guess that Harrisburg is going... Probably, I would expect them to probably run the table. I mean, I think they do still play State College, but I don't think they'll have much problem with the other teams left on their schedule.
Right.
And Central Dauphin is now in the driver's seat to outright win the Mid-Penn Conference. And this is after starting the season 0-2 with losses to Wilson and Manheim Township.
Right, and Cedar Crest still has to play Manheim Township and Wilson. So when you look there's still lots of shakeup there. The York League will play itself out. You also see Reading sitting there at number 9. One spot out of the playoffs,
They're 5-1, correct?
They're 5-1, but the one was over a DC team.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Right. Yep. Yeah. We talked about that a little bit last week.
Power
so Reading's sitting there. If Reading probably loses to Mifflin, but also possibly Exeter too.
A couple wild cards here are Lebanon, who is having a really strong year in Section 3 of the LL. So they're really strong, but they're playing small schools.
Yeah.
So will it be enough if they continue that to creep up to that 8th spot? I don't know. And the other one is Cumberland Valley. I know they got off to a slow start last year. It looks like they're struggling a bit here at the beginning.
Yeah, they just got beat up by someone.
Right. Can they, really put on a run here? And again, if I feel like the teams that Cumberland Valley would have to beat down the stretch would help them kind of jump over some of the teams.
Yeah, I forget who that was. Chambersburg. They lost to Chambersburg 30-0.
Yeah.
So, and now Chambersburg still does get to play Central Dauphin. Central Dauphin also has State College.
Right.
But from what my conversations with Eric thinks there's a very high likelihood Central Dauphin finishes 8-2.
Well, they appear to be hitting their stride.
Yeah. And I'm guessing then that Central Dauphin probably hosts State College, which would be a big deal because State College is one of those top 3 teams in Mid-Penn,
right?
With Harrisburg and Central Dauphin. But I think Central Dauphin might host State College, giving them that not having to travel advantage.
Right.
Central Dauphin plays Altoona this week. So, and then you also have the 2 York teams sitting there, Central York and Red Lion. I don't think usually Central York, Redline, and Dallastown are the ones that are near the top. Now Dallastown's having a down year, but the three of them I think have a round robin like right at the end of the year, like weeks 8, 9,
usually.
and 10. I think they usually meet. But yeah, Redline and Central York in that conversation. Chambersburg's right there. But honestly, the way it looks now, I'd expect the top 4 to be in no particular order. I'm going to just say the way that they're listed there now. Township, Wilson, Harrisburg, and then probably Central Dauphin would be my guess.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, those would be the top 4 teams in whatever order you want to put them in. So that leaves Crest, Central York, Chambersburg, Redline, Reading, and Lebanon fighting for the final 4 spots.
Yeah.
And I think that realistically, those are the only teams you can really consider.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Hempfield or Cumberland Valley would really go on a run and win these last 4 weeks, but that's going to alter the ones that are at the top.
And speaking of Hempfield, we will come back to them later in the
we'll
show.
be talking about the Black Knights really, really soon. But we do want to recap this Manheim Township game first. So let's get back on that. And I thankful that I didn't fully go into the player of the game stuff to put you on the spot again this week. So start thinking about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I know you do. That's why I do. I like to keep you involved. I like to give you that advantage. So let's do you want to do the game recap from Huddle first, or you want to do the stats first?
Let's do the recaps.
You want to do this? All right. So here are our highlights for the week.
Since we'll probably have to restart it anyway.
Well, this isn't mine. This is the Huddle version.
Okay.
So it's only 2 minutes long. I just unfortunately didn't have the time to do what I usually do. So I have no idea what they're going to show us here, but here you go. These look like to be the Wilson highlights. And this is right at the beginning of the game. So this is the 10-yard pass to Troy Corson, who unfortunately went down with an injury during this game. Then we're going to get this big run here that put Wilson up very early. Second play from scrimmage. And he busted right up the middle, 55 yards into the end zone. Extra point would be good from Jack Wagner. Wilson was up 7-0. Unfortunately, the literal next offensive play for Manheim Township would be a big touchdown, and you can see, I don't know if it's up there, it's kind of being blocked, but 7-7 right away. Now Wilson would get a few more good plays throughout the evening, but Manheim Township would really take things over with their passing game. It was electric all night. Unfortunately, Wilson's on the bad end of a few statistics, the biggest being that for the second straight year, Lancaster-Lebanon League opponent set a new single-game receiving record against them. This time it was Anthony Ivy who went for over 280 yards against the Bulldogs. I'll have an exact number for you here shortly. But I didn't realize until during the game that this was his first game of the year.
Yeah, I knew he had been out.
Oh, look, you're right. It paused.
I knew he had been out
a minute in. Look at that. What a
he
shot.
He had been out injured for a little bit. I didn't know he hadn't played in the other games.
No, he had a wrist injury. So, yeah, it's going to give us problems here. So, back out of this and restart
yeah, so I know, in reading some of the preview stuff that he hadn't, he didn't play. I knew he hadn't played the last couple of games. I didn't know it hadn't been any of the games. I also know that they were aware of the threat that he brings in terms of his speed and everything, and that was on full display on Friday night.
Yeah, for sure. And he caught 8 passes for 292 yards and 2 touchdowns, which he broke Trey Glass's record from Warwick set last year. But yeah, I mean he was basically their offense, and all respect to Harry Kirk, their quarterback, who was putting the ball where it needed to go all night long.
Beautiful throws.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to think after some of the quarterbacks Townships had over the last few years, but Kirk could end up being the best,
right?
Which is saying something because they've had some very good quarterbacks over the last decade. So then in the second half, Township started to go to their running back, Jaden Floyd. And he grounded out 80 yards, I believe, on the night, 72 net. So when they needed him, he got it going. Wilson held Township to only 9 points in the second half. Unfortunately, Wilson wasn't able to get on the board at all during that time. So, there it is. Final score, 30-14, favor Manheim Township. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's an opportunity for a rematch in the future. That's just the way that these teams seem to be headed, with a few of those really strong mid-pen teams thrown in the mix. Like I said, I feel like the top four in whatever order you want to take is Wilson, Manheim Township, Harrisburg, and Central Dauphin.
Yeah.
Will someone crash that party? I guess we'll find out over the next month. But
Yeah.
those four teams, I think, are right there. And we've been saying for a while, maybe not on the air, but we truly feel, and all the people outside of Wilson we've talked to think that whoever wins District 3, very strong chance of representing the East in the state championship.
Yeah, you never know who is going to be that team out of District 1.
Yeah, I mean, because Coatesville's beat up a little. Ortega not playing. They're not the team they were the last 2 years. Downingtown West, very strong. North Penn's always there as well.
But I know those teams, and they still do 16 teams in theirs because, and this is part of that realignment issue, is there are a ton of 6A schools down in District 1 in suburban.
Well, we always see Springford right in that mix as well.
Right. So when you get down there, that's going to have to sort it out, but you don't have to beat all of them. You need, the winner of District 3 will need to beat one of them, and coming off of a bye.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's one of those things where, Friday night obviously didn't unfold exactly how we would prefer, but, that happens sometimes. And it was one of those where, I think there were still some things that some positives you can take away. But Township played like the version of Township we saw was kind of the version that looked like they were ready to go and they were ready to try and prove something. And they were firing on all cylinders there. So it goes that way sometimes. There's nothing to hang your head about, but it is something to kind of, the task in front of you now.
Right.
And you can't get caught. You can want that rematch later on, but that's kind of up to us. Like, if you want that rematch, you got to handle your business.
Yep.
You can't feel sorry for yourself or anything like that. You got to move on. They've got Hempfield this week. I know we're not done wrapping up this game yet, but you've got Hempfield coming up. So learn from your mistakes and the things that didn't go our way on Friday. Regroup and start to worry about taking care of business this week, so that you can take that first step into ensuring that, hey, if you think you want another shot at Manheim Township or the top teams in the district, make it happen. And so you need to get back to work.
Yeah, and obviously only scored 14 points, so there are some offensive issues. Got shut out in the second half, but the defensive ones are the ones that everyone's talking about. The secondary not being able to stop Ivy and Kirk, which can also be related to the inability to get pressure on him at times. I know Wilson had 4 sacks, so it's not like they weren't able to get to him, but sometimes when they needed to get there because the secondary was grasping, they weren't there, and Kirk got to Ivy for the majority of those plays.
Right.
But it wasn't, and I don't know if this is good or bad, a positive or a negative, but it wasn't an implosion by Wilson. Like, there weren't turnovers. Well, that mattered. There was one late, but at that point, the game had been pretty much figured out at that point. It was like mid-end of fourth quarter. Wilson's down by, I think we were down by close to 6. It might have been the full 16. Maybe it was the 13. So there's still hope, but this wasn't like, there was a fumble or interception in the first or second quarter.
No.
And it was a big turn, momentum switch. It wasn't like that. Wilson just got worn down. They couldn't capitalize when they needed to, and the big play that is what did them in, was the big plays.
Right, and
they got one right away, but then they gave up 4 or 5 the rest of the evening, 3 of which were touchdowns.
Right, and we've talked about this a lot. We talked about it on air. We've talked about it in person a bunch. Like, this was the game where we said we knew what we were up against, and we knew we were going to have to put it all together. And while we made some strides, and in other areas we still didn't quite we aren't where we need to be. I don't think there's anybody out there that would argue this was the game where we did put it all together. You know what I mean? So, like, there's still that potential. I still think the potential for this team is extremely high. I like the pieces that are there, and I like the things we've seen. It's just we weren't able to put it together on Friday night the way we needed to, in that game. You know, like in a lot of the games we played this year, honestly, the way we played on Friday night might have been good enough. Maybe not everyone, you know, but like I also look, man, like we are going against a ton of good quarterbacks this year.
Oh yeah,
you know, like from
yeah.
all accounts, the kid at Central Dauphin is really good, and we saw him be very good. Yeah, and he's young
only a
too,
sophomore.
right? He's real young.
Yeah, well, Doug mentioned that to me Saturday, and I saw him at the flag football clinic. He said, "Man, the quarterbacks we've seen this year, you know, you got an emerging star in Mosey, who's going to be around for 2 more years at Central Dauphin. Then you had a returning starter at Mifflin and Strasser, right? Is that who it was?
Yeah,
was
I think so.
Okay,
I don't know.
whoever it was is the returning starter. Right. So then you go to Springford, and Engro was incredible returning great. Starter
and big time wide receivers.
And then you have Manheim Central, who has Evan Simon, who's going to Division I.
That'll be interesting to see how that happened because Ryan Day got fired today. Or not,
no, Chris Ash. I was
Chris
like,
Ash.
Ryan Day being fired after the
did
start.
not get fired.
I'm
thinking Ohio assistants. It was Chris Ash got fired today, so it'll be but Division I quarterback.
Yeah. So the only one prior, that this year that we didn't see that wasn't. And actually, the Penn Manor quarterback could be a returning starter. I don't know.
Right.
It's just of the ones we faced, that he was probably at the bottom.
Right.
And then you come here, and Harry Kirk, like we said, maybe the best of the bunch, of a great line, and over the last decade of 2 3-year starters from Manheim Township. They had Emge and Benjamin, and they just always seemed to have a guy there.
Yeah. As a side note, Penn Manor hung 60 up this week.
On who?
McCaskey.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we don't need to.
That'll be a senior night.
We don't need to talk about that, but just.
I mean, we will eventually.
Yeah, not tonight.
Not tonight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it really has been the year of the quarterback for Wilson opponents. That's for sure. So quickly, the team statistics: 15-10 first downs favor Township. Rushing yards, Wilson got the edge, 116-64, but that's because Township did all their work through the air. 387 passing yards net to Wilson's 123. Township quarterbacks, which I believe Kirk's the only one that threw anything, were 14 of 29. So, like, Wilson, right there, you can see Wilson forced bad passes, incomplete passes, or he just missed. Right. Like, he was completed below 50%. It's just that the ones he completed were daggers.
Right.
And they were perfectly thrown, and Wilson didn't have an answer until later in the second half. Some of them, we
had guys in position. Their receivers just made really good plays.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just how it goes.
So Wilson was outgained 451 to 239. Time of possession, 5.5 minutes, favor to Township, 26:44 to 21:16. No real notables on third or fourth downs or red zone. Both the teams were pretty even in that regard. Individual stats: Jaden Floyd from Township, 18 rushes for 72 yards. Avanti had 8 for 76 yards, but 55 of those came on the second play from scrimmage. And Harry Kirk, 14 of 29 for 387 yards, 3 touchdowns. Caleb Brown was 13 of 22 for 112 yards. And we talked about the leading receiver for Township in Ivy with 292 and 2 scores. Corson was Wilson's leading receiver with 4 for 30. Defensively, see who the standout was there. You're a disgrace. Sam Emge led Township with 6 tackles, 1 for loss. Wilson's leader was Avanti Lockhart with 7.5 tackles, 1 for loss. Wilson did get a few sacks coming from Jeff Colson, Adrian Santana, Ethan Capitano, and Nate Hoekstra and Johnny Wildman each had half a sack. Anthony Coper chipped in 5 tackles as well. So one of the things that unfortunately I feel like we need to mention, just because it's kind of surreal to talk about, is a couple of streaks that came to an end, and they weren't really streaks that I think anyone was aware of, because I didn't think about it until I was talking about it. Well, actually, I saw it from our buddy Andy Herr, who we'll get to when we talk sponsors here in a few moments. But Andy Herr mentioned about how this is the first league loss Wilson suffered at home to a league opponent since he was a senior in high school, which would be way back September 21st, 2007. Do you know why he knows that?
It was Warwick.
Because it was to Warwick, 14-12. So literally, it's been 12 years, an entire high school class has come and gone
Wow.
since the last time Wilson lost a home game to a Lancaster-Lebanon League Section 1 opponent.
Wow.
Yeah. Over 12 years by
That's
a few
crazy.
days. That's hard to fathom. I mean, I know we talked about the 68-game winning streak, which it makes sense in that context,
Right.
but like knowing the last 2 years we lost 4 games, well, when you look at it, they weren't at home; they were on the
Right.
road. You know, at least when we're talking the league opponents, we
Right,
lost
right.
to Township in 2017. 2018, we lose to Warwick. Well, it was on the road.
Right.
So now we get one at home, and it's been over 12 years since that last happened. And then Mr. Mike Drago messaged me wanting to know when was the last time Township beat Wilson at home. And I started thinking, I was like, oh, well, I know they lost the league games in 2007. It might have been there. And then I looked at it, I was like, no, that was Warwick. It was at Township that we lost to them that year. And kept going back. And then Drago helped me. He's like, I got a few years that are options. I don't have the data here. Can you get it for me? So Wilson lost to Township in 83 and 85 at home. Or, excuse me, in general, but it wasn't at home. They were both. So I was like, well, he's like, they lost to him in 77 and 76. Because it's back-to-back, I would think one of them was at Gursky. And he was correct. September 25th, 1976 is the last time Wilson lost to Manheim Township at what wasn't even called Gursky Stadium then, because John Gursky was the head coach at Wilson.
Be a bold move.
It was, I believe it was 12-0. So Wilson actually got shut out by the Blue Streaks. But yeah, 1976.
Wow.
Last time Wilson lost at home to Manheim Township. 43 years ago, nearly exactly, as this was the 27th, and that game was on September 25th. Obviously a Saturday game, as that's what the majority of them were through the beginning of football up until the 80s sometime for a lot of opponents, some even later, some into the 90s, like McCaskey.
Yes.
Playing on Saturdays. So yeah, so those are a couple interesting tidbits that popped up. Obviously not in our favor, but definitely notable. That's for sure.
Yeah, worth noting anyway.
All right. So before we preview our Hempfield game, is there anything else you want to talk about relating to Manheim Township before we move on?
No, it's just we kind of mentioned it before. It obviously wasn't the outcome that we would like or would want. I know. I'm certain that the team would like to be able to get another shot at it, at some point this season. But I think you can't let that get in the way. Like that, don't let the big picture get in the way of the details. Like sometimes we get cluttered down with the details, but if you want that other shot, you have to start taking care of business this week. And so when you get to Hempfield and your preparation for Hempfield, which we know has started, handle your business this week. Don't take them lightly. Like again, they beat LS this past week. I know that LS is a Section 2 team, but it's a Section 2 team that
is usually in the running.
Yeah,
usually a top 3 team.
They usually make districts, and they usually, so they're a solid team. They have the unfortunate part there of being in with
Manheim Central and
Manheim Central a lot of times, but. Which that was
actually,
a shootout.
Who ended up winning that?
Manheim Central.
Did they?
Yeah. They put up. It was.
I knew it was
lot
close,
of points.
but after everything going on,
I think it was 40-something to 30-something. It was a high scoring.
Did Palm play? No, Palm play the whole time. Do you know?
I do not know. I didn't look up much of anything except I saw that Manheim Central was scoring some late.
Okay.
But yeah. So I mean, you look at it. That's no joke. So this isn't. You have to go in there and you have to be ready to go. You're going to get their best shot. We talked about earlier, depending on how the second half of the season goes for them, they could, make a run at those bottom playoff spots, for districts, because I'm trying to think, they've already played like Hempfield.
We're their last big game.
Right,
We're their last big game.
So they've played the team's expected to be at the top.
Wait, no, they played Township Week 10. That's the rivalry game.
So they played Township Week 10.
They played Warwick. They played Cedar
Crest. So
they play us this
they
coming
have
week.
some games that they expect to win kind of over the next few weeks. It's a big game for them.
Yeah, they're probably thinking we can win 2 of these. If we squeak out one of the others, there's an opportunity for us to make it at 5-5, which, Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No, but yeah,
let's talk about
they're going to give you a shot. So
our housekeeping stuff before we move to the Black Knights altogether. So our show sponsors, again, May's Sandwich Shop, Topher's 10th and Elm Cafe, our 2 anonymous donors, and Andy Herr, who we mentioned just a little bit ago with that little nugget about the last time Wilson lost a home section game. So we appreciate all of their contributions to the show to help us kind of keep the lights on here. And, we have opportunities for others to join them if you would be interested in doing that. And there's multiple ways you can support us besides sponsorship and advertising or the in-kind donations. There's the website, which always has a bunch of information, including a lot of this history and heritage and statistics that I'm able to reference or find out pretty quickly. I just actually used the site today to let Drago know the last time that there was, at least for Wilson, a rain delay and postponement that was actually made up. Oh, okay. Not the O.J. Roberts one from 2001, but back in 2000, my sophomore year, we played Harrisburg the first game of the season, and just like 6 minutes into the game.
Because that's crazy, because those were back-to-back years.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, we talked, and we had a crazy one my senior year in 2002 where Penn Manor got moved to a Monday.
And that has happened to with Manheim Central.
Yeah.
A few.
And that Manheim Central game was mentioned by Paul Roberts in this like thread of tweets talking about, because we're talking about why missing being delayed with Fleetwood, which congratulations to the Spartans getting that win today, moving to 6-0, looking good in that Section 2 race. But yeah, the rain delays, the postponements, the suspensions. It was weird for it to be Saturday to a Sunday, and Drago was covering this, and he said he didn't think he had ever done a Scholastic game that had happened to. And Brian Rippey covered the game that I'm referencing,
I saw that.
Where Wilson played the first 7 minutes against Harrisburg, was down 6-0 on a Friday night. Rain delay of over an hour and 15 minutes pushed it to Saturday. We started again at noon, and we came back. Wilson came back to beat Harrisburg. And got the 2000 season kicked off there. But I knew it had happened at Wilson while I was there. Now, maybe it's happened since then, but of the ones I'm familiar with, for sure, that...
So, yeah, I have a story for you then. It's unrelated to Wilson, though, so I'll save it till after the show.
All right, so our next live show will be next Sunday, October 6th. October, like you said, it's here. We'll be recapping the game against Hempfield and previewing the game against Warwick. And here is the schedule for those of you that have been watching since the beginning. Again, we're halfway through that second column now. So things are moving along quickly. And this is now less than 2 weeks away. The big 75th season celebration events are happening. Friday, October 11th, the game against Warwick is the Tradition Club event welcoming back the title teams from the years that ended 9, 69, 79, 89, 99, and 2009. And then the next day, Saturday, October 12th, is the alumni flag football game and the post-game evening reception at PJ Wellahan's. Tickets for both events are now on sale. You can get them online at bulldoghour.com. Just click on the tickets link, or come and see me and my family at May's Sandwich Shop. We have physical tickets there. Advanced ticket sales will save you money for the flag football game. They're $3 to $4, whereas if you buy them at the gate, everyone will be paying $6. So try to get them early. And, it's going to be a fun time. We got pretty much everything squared away for the game, just last-minute setups, and that's happening again October 12th. Kickoff at 6 o'clock at Gursky Stadium, and it should be a good time. Very much looking forward to it. So to wrap up this evening, we're going to be talking about the Hempfield Black Knights. They sit at 2-4 in overall play. I guess they are 0-2 in Section 1 with losses to
Cedar Crest
and Warwick. So, Hempfield has been one of those mid-tier teams, not often rising to the top the last few years. If you look back in Wilson history, they usually were a team that was very competitive with the game.
That sticks out to me, and I know this was growingly a long time ago, but the game where Fode came up with a big play at the end.
2015?
Yeah. So that's the one that in recent history, that's the one that sticks out to me a lot.
Yeah, that's the one where I have that great picture of the kid with his hands on the helmet when he's being
I wasn't at that game. I wasn't at that game.
You weren't at that game?
No, I'm almost certain I was not at that
that's
game.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that was the last year I wasn't really at all the games yet. Now I'm at a lot of the games.
Those are the dark times. So Hempfield is coached by Ron Zeiber, who's familiar with Berks football. But this is actually his 9th year at Hempfield now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
According to Jeff Reinert's writing at Lancaster newspapers, LancasterOnline.com, Zeiber is 48-41 overall in his 9 years. Last year, they were 3-3 in Section 1, which, like I said, is good enough for 4th place. And their 5-5 regular season record got them to squeak into the district playoffs. Of course, they had a first-round meeting with Harrisburg, and that didn't go in their favor. As we found out the next week, Harrisburg was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so the biggest problem, we played Hempfield at the Reading Phillies Stadium last year, the Fighting Stadium.
I was trying to think. I was like, I don't remember.
You don't remember
playing
that
them at home
because
last
we didn't.
year.
I mean, it was the home game, but it was the Gridiron Classic, and Wilson ended up winning that game. It was close. It was tough, but Bulldogs came out on top. But the big guys that they had last year, they're gone again. Like we saw 2 years ago when they gave us a scare in 2017 at their place, but they had a good like trio of skill position players, and they always have big linemen. And a few of them along the line, especially, were back last year, but this year's not the case. The running back, Matt Houston, is gone. Riley Good and Darren Wrestler, 2 other pieces from that crew over the last 2 years, also gone. I believe Colin Peters was the quarterback last year, though, or he spent time there. He is back, but again, they're trying to find a lot of pieces to go in the right places still halfway through the season. Again, they're middle bottom in terms of statistics and rankings here after most teams have played 2 section games and 6 on the year. So they're probably looking at, you would think, 5th place finish in the section if you go by the first 6 weeks of the season.
Right.
Then Penn Manor's probably 6th and McCaskey's 7th. So where those top 4 jostle, we don't know, but Wilson can ensure that they stay in the top 4 and keep Hempfield in the bottom half this Friday night. So, yeah, I don't know. What you have anything else to say about the Hempfield game?
I know when we've gone up there, and even last year. Now, last year was a crazy year. You're at the Reading Phillies Stadium or the Fightins, and it's just that whole different atmosphere. It was a really cool atmosphere. That was a lot of fun. But it seems like when we go up there, man, they give their best shot. They're not a team where you're just gonna walk in there and this is Wilson, and they'll just kind of that will be enough on its own. Right. So you need to go in there and handle your business. Like I said, we know the preparation started. We know that there's things that they'll work on this year, or this week, sorry, and this is a chance to kind of move on from that township game. What we talked about, the township game didn't end how we wanted it to. The only thing you can do is to move on and handle your business. We said it going into the township game. We said it going into the Penn Manor game. One game at a time. That's what you have to do. And so this is the next game. You can't look ahead to that Warwick game.
No, you can't get caught looking ahead at all.
Because if you end up in trouble this week, then that takes significance away from the other game. So handle this game to set yourself up for that big Warwick game in a couple weeks. But you need to handle your business here tonight or Friday night, and just take it 1 week at a time right now.
Right, for sure. So just because it's early and I don't want to go quite yet, just we'll talk or let play these highlights from the Hempfield Lamberton Strasburg game, which we mentioned. Hempfield won that game to improve to 2-4, and LS is no pushover. So
no,
this isn't them just pushing around some smaller school. I guess I gotta hit play.
That helps. We'll probably only get to see a minute of it anyway.
Yeah. So. Oh, good. It's jumping around. I love when it does that too. So, yep. So, still awesome. This is wonderful. Oh, it's still happening. Maybe we won't watch this if it's going to be ridiculous like this. I'm not really sure what it's even doing.
It's making me sick.
It's just like skitzing around here. Let's load that back up. And try that again.
I find it hard to believe 175 people have watched that.
Well, if it's anything like what we were seeing, I would doubt that they did. Oh, it's going to keep doing it. All right, so I guess we're not doing that because Huddle's being weird, but
It's probably only like 87 people, but like everybody
it was-
refreshed it at
right,
least
they had
once
to
to
do
see
that,
if it
yeah.
would do it. So
So, yep, sorry, wanted to show you some Hempfield highlights, but doesn't want to let us do that. So, I think that's pretty much it. I guess the only other thing I want to mention here, and it's more of a housekeeping thing, just want to point out that I've been running the vintage game film series
Oh, yeah,
a few days a week, 3 to 4 days a week. I'm highlighting the 4 of the 5 teams that we're honoring at the Warwick game that I mentioned, those seasons that ended 9. I've been pulling their season film together that I burned over the last 18 months. I have a lot of Wilson game film on my computer now.
just a bit.
Every
just a
game that the
bit.
team has up to like 2005 or so, and then I got to work on the mini DV discs, and then the huddle stuff, which I've already talked to Jeremy about working through. So hopefully I will have every game that the school has very soon. That's the only reason I'm not showing the 2009 stuff is I don't have it yet.
Right.
But I'm showing all of the games from 1969 except for week, I think it's 6. The Reading
gonna
Central
be
Catholic
honest,
game doesn't exist.
I hadn't picked up on the pattern that you were showing it from the years.
Oh, I'm trying to show it on the exact anniversary. So every time
So,
I show a 69 game, it's the 50th anniversary of that
So
game.
I did notice that the dates were lining up, but I didn't notice that they were all from the same, like that they're from the years.
Yeah.
that
So
I
I'm
know.
trying to show every game
I know
from the
that doesn't
50th,
surprise
40th,
you at all that I didn't notice.
30th and 20th anniversary of those exact games. Now, some night like I was behind this week. I was supposed to show the 69 game on Friday, and I wasn't able to do that. So I got caught up with that today, and then I did back to back kind of a duet here this evening or before this show. 79 and 89. I did game 5. So the next one will be Tuesday night, 1999 game 5. And I mean, obviously, if this was a title team, these were some great teams. But not only were these great teams, these teams had undefeated regular seasons, and they went deep in the playoffs if playoffs existed. The 69 team was the second Wilson team to ever go undefeated. They were 10-0, so we're going to watch 9 of those games. Like I said, the Reading Central Catholic game wasn't in the Wilson archive, so I don't have it. That was game 6, so we'll be missing that one in the next couple weeks. But the 79 team went, I think, 10-1. So, that's a pretty good year before playoffs started.
Yeah.
But then 89, 14-1. So we're going to be with them for a while. Same thing with 99. They went 12-1. And I have all of those games. So the only one missing from that lot was the 6th game from 1969. So, and I put out an announcement when I started this about a month ago. But, I figure I have these film. Show it
cool.
out there, and if anyone's interested in purchasing it, I've been running that fundraiser for the team for a long time. Haven't sold a bunch of them recently, but they're available on USB drives, or I can burn them to DVD. That's a lot more work though. So buy it USB.
People jumped on that, and then last fall happened, and that was just pure chaos for everybody.
Yeah, that's just it was crazy, but thankfully all that stuff is backed up for archival
awesome.
and history purposes, and now we can take advantage, have some fun things about that. I had wanted to do like a Wilson like greatest games like thing for the 75th season, but there was just so much else going on. So I'm thinking maybe next year because it's the 75th anniversary. If we want to get into this on air, but no. We're not going to, but yeah. So
because that I'll just
because I know you all too well.
You do.
Yeah. So maybe next year I can, and maybe I'll have all of the game film from 2005, 2006, whenever it got moved to the mini DVs and the digital. Hopefully I can get the last like 15 years or so, and then I can really pick and choose. And I only bring that up at all because obviously the Wilson Mifflin game from 2014 has to be on that list.
Yeah. Another one I didn't get to see, so I'll have to sit down and watch
and I would think you on the short list. I think the Wilson Cumberland Valley District Championship game from 2016 was a pretty good one too, being down 14-0 and then storming back with 4 straight touchdowns.
There were lots of fun things about that one. Like on the personal note, one of my favorite is like just saying, all right, think about who you want to interview.
Right, yeah.
And the look you gave me was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we didn't have interviews tonight. Justin and I usually let the players and coaches,
we just try to stay out
relax and cool off and not have to focus and talk to us about it right away about, hey, why did we lose? No, it's like unfortunately, they have to do that with like Drago and people like that.
I don't like doing that about the teams I root for, and I'm not playing in the game.
Right.
Like when the Eagles lose, like I don't want to talk about it. Like,
and you have nothing to do with it.
right? I literally just sat there and watched. Like that's all I did on TV. I wasn't even
You
there.
wasn't even in the stadium.
Right.
Yeah, so we're a little closer in this, but again, we have nothing to do with what happens on the field, and
Right.
we don't want to be like, "Hey, why did you do this?" or "Why didn't this work?"
Yeah, what happened?
Like, no, that's not our thing. We'll leave that up to the media professionals that don't have intimate ties to the program. So, we'll let that go. But yeah, so Justin said at the halftime of that 2016 district championship game, he's just like, we're losing 14-0, and he's like, you know what? Just let me know who you want to interview after the game. And I look at him like, all right, I will do that.
And that second half was awesome.
And then I forget if we may have not even talked to any players because everyone was going nuts. I know we talked to Doug though. We had an interview.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we look forward to.
We should have interviewed the guy who was working the gate.
The guy that didn't want to let us in.
Yeah.
Back in my day, coaches came on the bus.
Yeah, we'll just let it stop there.
We'll stop it there. We don't have to go any further. So, all right. Well, I think that's about it. A little bit shorter show this week. Hopefully next week we can get to the hour. We'll throw some interviews in.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
We'll be ready to roll. And game against Hempfield, another opportunity for Coach Doms to tie Coach Gursky. Head coaching wins list. So
that's crazy.
Look forward to the game Friday at Hempfield. If you can't make it, I will have the live stream the game from my little iPad mobile streaming device, courtesy of Justin Burke. His help is always appreciated. And so before I go, if you have any suggestions for Wilson's greatest games, because I know a decent amount about Wilson football, but there are plenty of games that I don't know anything about. So if there's one that I may not know about, let me know why it's one of Wilson's greatest games. Let me know like the date and the teams and stuff, and I'll pull up the film and check it out, and maybe add it to my list to broadcast next year. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it for us. This wraps up episode 5-13 of the Bulldog Hour. We appreciate everyone joining us and all of our sponsors for helping us out. But for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays, and for the entire Wilson football program, remember until next time, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.